Welcome to the Bank Marketing Show, the podcast that engages and informs you for success in today's marketplace. It's the show that will make you a better marketer with trends, tactics, and inspiration from experts and industry leaders. If you're wanting to impact your personal success and position your bank as the best choice in your market, you're in the right place. Now let's dive into today's show with your hosts, Chris and Dan.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Bank Marketing Show. We're glad to be with you today. Very excited about the topic that we're going to cover. This is a continuation of the process that Dan and I have been walking you guys through for a while now, starting with strategic planning and then kind of taking all of the elements of that and walking it out. So today we're going to talk about messaging. And man, Dan, good to see you, man. This is an important part of the whole marketing thing, is it not?
Yeah, good to see you too. And and I think it's one of the areas that banks often have the most trouble with. Like it's easy to get a campaign started, easier to make the decision of, hey, we need to advertise or we need to market. But when it comes down to actually figuring out what you're going to say, this is where the art of the art of marketing kind of comes in, of knowing what to say, who to say it to, when to say it, all that stuff. So,
don't you just love the default? We are your community bank.
Local, trusted.
Right. Okay. Yes.
All those things are true, but it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Not enough to make people excited anymore.
That's right. And we were actually working, my team and I, with a client on the finish up of the last steps for a design dev project on their new website over the last couple of days. We're right down the launch, and yeah, they kind of came back to us. Well, we're wanting to kind of update our tagline. What do you guys have in mind? Yeah, your community bank, something, or
your community bank with capital.
Yes. I'm like, can we talk about it? Yeah. So Dan, I think that's good. What we're going to cover today, not just web taglines, but the whole gamut of it. So this is great. And so when you and I were outlining this, we talked about this. People can get a loan, set up an account anywhere. Lots of banks, lots of credit unions, lots of financial institutions and ways to go do it. In just about every community in America, you've got lots of options, right? And anywhere you have the internet, you have options. So the question you and I wanted to dive into is, why do they pick you? So what are kind of some of your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, if you can, it's like getting gas or picking laundry detergent, right? It's the whole brand thing, right? Why do they pick you? It's because your brand. It's because your personality speaks to them, right? Or your bank's personality, maybe yours personally too, but your bank's personality and promise has to speak to them. Why do you think personally? Why do you pick a particular gas station or pick a particular brand of laundry detergent? Right? They're all pretty much the same, but when you really think about brand preferences, it comes down to good experiences you've had in the past. Like you feel like it gets your clothes a little whiter, but does it really? Like, have you tested all the brands? I don't know. Maybe you have, but most of that decision comes down to brand. And the same thing, you can take that metaphor back to banks, right? Like your brand promise, if it includes your good service and your ability to solve problems for your customer, that's baked into that. And that can be why people choose you. So yeah, I know. I mean, in talking to lots and lots of banks, everybody says, we have people choose us because we have great service. You call us, you get a real person. We talking to an ag bank this morning, and they'll come to your farm and have a meeting with you in your tractor so you don't have to leave the field. This is all great stuff, but does it come across in your ad and your website and your social media messaging? That's what we're going to talk today is how to get that stuff to come across, because that's a lot easier said than done.
It is. It is easier said than done. And so much of what you're describing is relatability.
Yeah.
Right. So even the laundry detergent thing, what is it? Yes, it's the features and it's those types of things, which is what you're describing in the bank world, and accessibility, it is all of those things, but is the messaging relatable so that I can go, oh, that fits me. That fits my family. That fits my small business. That fits whatever my kid for a student checking. Whatever the case may be, does it fit me? And do I connect? And is it relatable?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And I mean, and does it come across, consistently across everything that you do? You can have a really relatable ad, but then if you click on it, it brings you to the website. Suddenly you're talking about like open a checking account online, and that's the main message. You're going to kind of lose people. If you have a great message in your ad and people call the bank and they don't get that real person that picks up, or the person that picks up is like rude or distracted, it falls apart. So,
or isn't informed about the ad campaign that you have out there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, wait, Dan, I can't talk to you about that. I've got to get Susan who can talk to you about that.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Come on.
Yeah. Well, and so relatable is more than just the tagline. It's more than just the phrase or the couple words that you can fit into your ad. It's a feeling, it's everything from the colors and how modern your logo looks to the photography that you're using. All of that has to kind of sum up and be kind of subconsciously relatable. It's not something that somebody's, you don't sit down and look at a website or an ad and consciously analyze it to see if it fits you. You kind of know in a split second when you see something. So and that's where, like I was talking about, like the art of marketing, like that's, we're trying to create that feeling, that trust, from the branded elements, from the words that you use to make it relatable.
Yeah, and you made a great point first about, what's presented first. So when somebody comes to your website or sees an ad or whatever the case may be, and then once they begin an engagement, or you have the opportunity to begin an engagement with them, what's presented first? And so it's the how is that presented, and now what you're rolling into is this is the backbone of messaging too, is the tone and the personality.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. I was working with one of the banks we work with on social media. I'm constantly working with them on just the tone and the voice in their posts, and they love to create posts that like have all these banking phrases. So one of them, with the example pops into mind, was something about how the bank does high impact community banking. I said, I work with a lot of banks. Worked with a lot of banks for a couple of years. I don't know what that means. Like, I can invent what it means, but the general person is not sitting there, oh, well, this is high impact community banking. Like, it sounds good, but it's not relatable. You don't want to go have a beer with high impact community banking, as it were, coffee or whatever your choice is. But so we work to kind of change, can we change that language to, banking that makes a difference in your local community, or just simplify it? Give an example of what do you really mean?
That's a very different tone of message. That's correct. Yeah. And some of that too is we realize that tone of messaging is about trying to incite either excitement or emotion of some sort, hope, or whatever the case may be. So that tone is about how are we speaking to them?
Yep.
Right. And what is the kind of like a soft tone, calm voice versus a loud, obnoxious voice, and something in between. So, and it's literally that even in written copy.
Yeah.
But whether it could be an outdoor board, or what hits them when they first come to your website, or whatever the case may be in tone.
Yeah, and I think you're edging towards. We talked in our prep here about thinking about audience first, right? So if your audience is, ag farmers that want you to come and have a meeting in their tractor versus large real estate developers in urban centers, the tone's probably going to be a little bit different, right? Even different groups use different words. So, the first thing I always ask or encourage my clients to think about is, like, if somebody walked in to your branch or to your office right now, how would you talk to them, right? Like, make it conversational, right? I think a lot of people get to the written word and just sort of seize up or become a lot more formal. But what we really want to do is, what we're really talking about tone and personality is being conversational. That's, if you thought of, if somebody walked in your office and you said, hello, welcome to the bank, we have services for you, like you sound like a robot. And, a lot of bank websites, a lot of advertising, not just bank advertising, but a lot of advertising in general, like sounds like that. So I think the first thing when you're starting to write ad copy is try to get yourself in that conversational mindset, right? For me, it always helps to work on copy and messaging with somebody else, right? Sit down, talk back and forth.
Great practice. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do it in a vacuum, right? Even if you're a solo marketing person at your bank, find somebody to talk it through with, because they'll have other ideas, and their speech patterns will be different, and you'll end up with something richer and more conversational, right?
Absolutely.
Role play and pretend like they're a customer and say, like, customer comes in to say, like, well, how can I qualify for a loan? Right? And what would you respond in person, and kind of write that down and turn that into a message.
And you're covering copy content, tone, and all of that. And another consideration that goes with it in tone and personality here too is the context of what that is. And here's an easy example to grab. With our agency, we've got several of them. We've got one primary guy that we use for voiceover a lot, for radio ads, even voice on hold, and sometimes VO on video, those types of things. And this guy's got a lot of range, and in voice, and even inflection and culture inflection and those types of things, right? So we've got a South Louisiana client that they want him with Cajun tone, right? So that, and he's actually generally from this area, so it's not hard for him to do, and he reaches that.
Yeah.
But last year we were working with our Wisconsin bank client, and guess what? That didn't work.
Yeah.
And in fact, he couldn't get where that tone and personality needed to be. So we needed to get, another VO person. And so that's a lot of what we're talking about. And it may be stating the obvious, but again, tone and personality has to be fitting. And here's what's interesting, Dan. Some of that has to do with platform as well. Because for that Louisiana bank client of ours, just last month, we were putting together streaming audio ads on Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, all of those. And in putting together targeted digital ads for streaming audio, you have all these national ads that have that kind of tone and personality for all these different products and whatever the case may be in streaming audio ads. And then we didn't want it to be so drastic to jump into this Cajun tone, South Louisiana voice.
Yeah.
So we actually used a different one, and it was a similar copy, similar messaging, in the content of what we were saying, but the context was different. So we wanted more of a neutral national voice.
Yeah.
Just because of the platform. So it's taking, I think, Dan, all of those kinds of things into consideration in tone and personality, like you're saying, rather than just popping down the regular copy because it's what we've always used, or, not taking into consideration all these things in visual imagery, in, voice, in all these, in inflection, all those kinds of things.
Yeah. I mean, you make a really good point about, I think as agency owners, we work with clients in lots of different places, right? And we're not, I think our perpetual struggle is just making sure that what we do speaks to that bank's audience, even though we don't live, where the bank might be. So I think, it helps us in a lot of ways of we have to be consciously thinking about that stuff. But if you're a marketer writing for your own bank, a lot of those tone and inflection things are just probably the way you have always spoken and the way you speak to customers. And so it's hard, I think the struggle for the solo bank marketer is to recognize what those words and what those inflection points are that make up the sort of the local language. That's taking it a little too far because it's not really different languages, but the local feel. And it's one thing on voiceover where you're talking, but then when you get to written, or you have to cram a big message into 3 or 4 words to fit into an ad, it gets hard.
It does. And even this tone and personality has to come out drastically different for our couple $1 billion bank client that's in Maine. On their Instagram content looks quite different in tone and personality than a lot of our other clients here in the Southeast.
Yeah.
And to be very clear, that's neither good nor bad nor whatever. It's speak in their voice locally, via imagery, via spoken voice, via copy content, via all those things.
Yeah. And to go back to our, the first point we made on this episode is like it nailing that voice is sort of creates your differentiator, right? The more you can actually make ads and home pages and videos feel like you're talking one-to-one to somebody else, like the more a differentiator it is.
Now you're hitting on the key point. That's right. And that's what it all has to come back to, Dan, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the exercise of finding somebody else to talk through this stuff with, I think is super important. Like I always think about it conversationally first, right? And written, it tends to need to be slightly more formal. But if you sit down to write without thinking about the conversational stuff, if you don't get in that conversational mindset, it will come across kind of too formal and cold, and you'll get like high impact banking and those types of phrases that just don't carry through.
I love that tool that you suggest there, and it goes back to audience. We can refer people back to Bank Marketing Show episode 8 on audience. Go back and listen to that. It's a great one. But to
We're
this
not biased
one,
or anything.
Yeah. So but the messaging and the audience intersect here so much. But Dan, in your bouncing something by another person, I think it's crucial that it's someone that understands or is a member of that audience.
Yeah.
Of your intended audience.
Almost preferably not a marketing person too.
Yes.
Right. Just get somebody that
right.
doesn't have that marketing hat on, and you can ask them, hey, does this sound natural? Even just talk about products, pretend you're selling them something, record the conversation, and like look at what you're actually saying and start there.
Dan, one of the other big points we wanted to be sure to cover today in messaging that's really important is about consistency. So take us there a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the point I wanted to make there was, I mean, I think the best way to create, so consistency, well, first, consistency is important because you can have this, like I think we were talking earlier, you have a great message on your ad, but if you click through the website or you pick up the phone and call and it falls apart, your ad dollars have been wasted and all the effort you put into that great message have been wasted. So it's about creating messaging and creating that tone and personality, not just for one particular thing, but having a framework, having a plan for that personality that crosses all of your channels.
We began this big series that we're in now, Dan, with strategic planning, and you just mentioned it. So that if we're doing all this work on getting to know our audience and how we're going to speak to them, and now we're talking about messaging, tone, personality, relatability, and we can do all this stuff, but all of this is behind the planning, as you say, because you're so correct that, again, every platform and marketing these days covers, I don't know how many typical platforms that we're talking about, but sometimes it's even not the obvious ones, because we know social media, website, SEO, and keywording sets, and anyway, and obviously ad copy and outdoor print, all of these things. But yeah, it's even the ones we don't think about. Just the look of your lobby, or maybe what's showing, scrolling on lobby monitors, is that the same as what's going out on some of the other platforms? Yeah. And is that consistency there, right? And even if you're still using a voice on hold system or whatever the case may be, it's all got to tie together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'm working with one of our banks now on creating a series of like storytelling videos, right? Like, can we interview customers whose life or business has been impacted by the work the bank does and tell their story, right? And then you look at their website and everything is product based, right? It's open an account online. It's great mortgage rates. It's, we're your business bank, like those types of things. And so we're working on, as we develop these stories, how do we weave them in to the site, right? When somebody clicks on your ad, are they brought to a page that just says, here's your loan application? Or are they brought to a page that's like clearly about loans, but starts with a video of this business that was helped with a loan from this bank in a way that other banks couldn't?
Or even a testimonial quote from that video that stands
right.
out, even if it's just
the
that
video,
simple.
The videos, the videos like the full bore kind of thing, but exactly like a testimonial with a little picture of customer that just sort of draws you in, shows you, hey, there's somebody like me that's gotten a loan from this bank. This is relatable. This is, this could be the bank for me. And you get drawn into the story. And yeah, you still have like the application form or like the phone number, the lead magnet on there, but draw people in, tell that story when you have a chance, because the mega banks are not, maybe they try to do that, but they're not going to, they can't, as we've said in a lot of episodes of this show, like the mega banks can't be as relatable on a very local personal level as you can. They can say personal service. They can show handshakes of somebody walking into a bank branch, but you can show that handshake happening in the town square or at the local coffee shop or in the tractor, and it just from one photo becomes a lot more.
There you go.
So that getting back to consistency, it's just a matter of like, don't just do this in one place. It's got to be an effort where you're looking at all of your customer touch points and make sure that all of those are covered.
And it takes that planning, and it also takes communication. Is a key. A little while ago, we were talking about it, and if somebody is getting a set of messaging from external facing marketing sources, and then they call or come in or engage somehow, and their experience is different because the person that they connect with isn't familiar with the campaign that's going on out here. And that's a breakdown, and that communication process is so key to consistency, so that frontline staff, loan officers, C-suite folks, everybody involved, is familiar with and bought in and understands this is the messaging that we're putting out there.
Yeah. Well, and depending on the size of your bank, this bank I was mentioning has about a dozen branches, and they're spread out. And the problem we're running into is like each branch kind of does their own drive-up flyers or lobby signage, right? Even in some cases, their own like direct mail postcards to the area. So it's a struggle to keep that consistent across a dozen branches. I think the way to fix that is probably a little different and going to depend on exactly your bank structure. Like we have another bank that's 17 branches in one city, right? And so their audience is a little more homogenous than a dozen branches, spread across an entire state. But, I think what we're experimenting with right now is like, hey, can we have a regular meeting just to talk about the stuff that's going on, right? And we can talk, we as the overall agency, we can like talk about the messaging that's going out in ads. You can talk about what you're promoting at the branch level, and we can figure out ways as we go to make things consistent. Does that maybe we the agency develops a drive up flyer template in Canva or something that the branches can then modify the text as they need. Maybe
there you go.
We have a brand standards guideline doc that we create that everybody follows. Like there's ways to sort of keep your structure, but add some layers of consistency in there, right? Like even on the messaging side, brand standards like make a lot of sense for design, colors and fonts and whatnot. But even on the messaging side, you can say, here's the allowable, like, here's words we like to use. Here's the tagline. Here's, where we use variations of the tagline. A lot of banks might have the retail and the commercial and the wealth management departments that each have different implementations of those things. So it's going to depend a lot on your bank structure, but there's ways to sort of centralize like the frameworks and the templates that will lead to consistency when you go out to all these places.
Yeah. And one of the key success points that we talk about on this show, episode in and episode out, whether we have guests or not, is from a marketing perspective, is creating personality and differentiators. And we all understand that. Anybody that touches the marketing world understands the importance of that. Doesn't always implement it, but understands the importance of it. And showing your superpower. What is that? You were talking about your ag focused, client earlier, and a couple of episodes ago, I was talking about one of our clients, a couple states up from us, that is very focused on mobile homes. Those types. Whatever your superpower and your differentiator is, do that, do it well, and speak it. And we're carrying that to the right audiences, and now we're talking about the messaging with that. And you and I know, while we discourage constantly talking about product and service at the forefront of your marketing messaging, sometimes we do have to speak to that. And sometimes we do have to pitch our product. So what are some good ways, and let's talk for a moment about ads and messaging when we do need to pitch the product.
Yeah, I think it goes right back to audience, right? If your message speaks directly to the audience and solves a big need that they have, it's not going to feel like an ad.
There you go. It solves pain points.
Right.
Now
and we've talked in several episodes about being a problem solver rather than a bank, right? And that's the same thing here, right? You've got to position that product as a solution to a problem, like a core problem that the audience is having, rather than just saying, we have checking accounts. My favorite example here is the open an account online, right? Like every bank, loves to promote this thing. But, I try to set the context, like Wells Fargo has had that feature since like 2005 or 1998, it's been around for 20 years. And by talking about account opening online, like just raw sort of, hey, you open your account online. Do you need a new account? Open an account online. Like nobody runs around going, gosh, I need a new account. And my problem is that the bank won't let me do it online. Like, that's a problem that might take up 5 minutes of your whole year, right?
Yeah.
And, you should be talking about that feature if you have it, or make it apparent on your website. But people are going to go to the website first and then look for it. If you're advertising it, it's not going to be relatable unless you for some reason had some very specific audience that opens up a bunch of new accounts online, and that's a core problem for them. But like that's not a core, opening account online is it's a great feature. You need to have it, but it's table stakes. It's not the core problem, right? A core problem could be, what's a good example?
The core problem could be, I'm looking for the kind of relationship that is going to offer me local access, those types of things, but also conveniences.
Yeah.
And the online account opening is just
exactly.
one of those.
It's a feature. Not the core message.
Cookie in the jar, and I want the whole cookie jar. That's the banking relationship that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And the mega bank can't deliver that because I can't get the local relationship. But as a local community bank, you need to be able to offer me the tech conveniences as well. Maybe that's the pain point. I'm looking for the cookie jar.
Right. So ask yourself, I like the game of asking why multiple times, right? Why do I care? Right? Why do I, as a potential customer, care about online account opening? Well, it's, you can open an account faster. Why do I care? Why do I care about that? Well, you're a busy professional, right? But why, as a busy professional, do I need to open an account? And you keep going down that path for your audience, for your personas. And I think usually by the time you ask why 4 or 5 times, you've gotten to the root of it.
So Dan, here's, I think, an important nugget that goes along with selling the product. And when we need to do that in our marketing is the positioning.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what you're talking about. You said it a few minutes ago. We do this. We offer mortgages. Here's our rate. Here, whatever the case may be. But how about spinning that around? And through imaging, through copy content, through platform approach, through all of those things. And I'm not trying to go all Oprah Winfrey here, but we live in a selfish society, unfortunately, too much so. So us as human beings, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
And from our audience's perspective, that's not to try to be selfish, but as an entity, as a company, what can I do for you? Dan, how can I make you feel better about your financial life or your financial organization? Or how can I reduce your fear about that next step you want to take in your business and you're going to need a loan for it? Or, you know what I'm saying? So, how can I make Dan's life? Like, how can I impact you, man? And that's
Yeah,
messaging.
it goes back to the point we made earlier about pretend like this person comes into your office and says, well, I don't have any money in my account anyway, so I'm going to close it. Or, I'm trying to start a business, but I can't get a loan anywhere. I'm just going to give up. Like, what do you say to that person? What would you say to that person?
Yeah. Do you say, well, sorry to hear that. Hey,
You
we got to
say,
close. We got to close up in a few minutes. Do you mind stepping out? I mean,
yeah. Do you say you can open an account online? Just go to our website. Like
yeah.
you don't say that. You connect with them and you try to be relatable and you have a conversation. So
And you ask questions. Okay,
Yeah.
tell me more about that. What
Yeah.
What's gotten you to this point, or tell me more about the goals you mentioned. What is it that you're trying to do? Right. You
Yeah.
engage, and but you make it about them. So that person sitting in your office is saying, "Well, here's what I'm thinking about doing with my small business," and I don't respond with, "Man, my wife and I are going to this great concert tomorrow night," and the customer's sitting there going, "Okay, this isn't about you. Did you even hear what I just said?"
Yeah.
And it's amazing that in our marketing and in our messaging, too often, Dan, for banks, is we offer this. And yeah, flip that around. Your life is important to us. So our mortgage offers this to first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
We're so excited about the stage in life where you are, blah, blah, blah. That's the messaging, I think, that's so crucial.
Yeah.
Well, good deal, man. Well, listen, we've covered a lot. Messaging, I know, again, it's one of these topics that we could just, you and I have presented on these. We have talked about this. It's part of the weave of what we do in our marketing work as agencies all day, every day. It amazes me, Dan, how much of an uphill grind it is sometimes with clients. And that's not just in banking. That's just with marketing clients in general. It's like, well, but we want to talk about how great we are. No, that's not why people are going to do business with you. So to kind of recap our thoughts here, Dan, it's why did they pick you? And being extremely intentional about tone and personality of messaging and all the things that go with that. And I love the point that you brought up about consistency and that we needed to talk about that today. And we did. And that takes planning and communication. And that's so important. And then, yeah, when we do need to sell these products, what is it that we're saying? How are we saying it? Are we being mindful of audience?
Yeah.
And is it about solving their problems, their pain points, not just about how great we are and what a beautiful front door we have on the headquarters location?
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. I mean, many banks that I've spoken with spend $1 million, $2 million on a branch and then don't spend any time thinking about messaging or don't spend, much money on getting the brand out there. And it's not that it's an either or decision. Obviously, those things come from different budgets, but your website, your message is your digital branch. And you think a lot, if you're building a physical building, you think a lot about how that front door makes your bank appear, like how the architecture of the branch and the layout of the lobby makes your bank appear. But these days, like most people don't come into the lobby. So put that kind of effort into the message, wherever that message is.
And I think, Dan, being nose to the grindstone, so many of you folks in our audience that are kind of day in and day out, just doing the job and just cranking it out. And we've got to get this postcard mailed, and we've got to do this, and we've got to do these marketing things. So whether it's agency and marketers or whether it's internal bank marketing staff, it's all of these things. But the cool thing about messaging is this is one of the ways that in your job and even in your career, you can change the landscape of the bank, the company, by doing the example that you gave a little while ago, Dan, of developing these sets of videos that are testimonial and their customers doing it, as opposed to just, we offer this checking account. So, and it's letting the speak and the messaging do all the legwork for you. I just love that. So I hope that's the takeaway from today's episode, that a lot of folks can realize is how crucial this messaging is. And this is not in addition to the work that you have to do. It's just part of it and being intentional.
Yep. And that's a great way to leave it.
Love it, man. Well, good stuff. Hopefully the big takeaway here is about being intentional about this messaging. So good stuff.
Yeah.
So, Dan, man, here we are recording this in the summertime. It's been a busy summer. You've been to several State Banking Association conferences. I have as well. I've got one coming up with the CBA of Georgia next month, and some others coming up. So, continuing into the busy fall, right?
Yeah, I get a couple weeks off here, taking a much needed vacation in August, but I will be at the ABA Bank Marketing Conference in September and the Community Bankers of Illinois Conference at the end of September, because it's about 3 blocks from our office. I can't miss that one.
You could carry your lunch down to that one. That's great.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, super, Dan. Well, thanks so much for all the great information and input and direction here too. Hope that all of our listeners got some great takeaways from this. We want to remind everybody to go to bankmarketingshow.com, where we'll have show notes from today's episode. So if you're trying to remember what were Chris and Dan talking about, something about tone and personality, well, go to our website and there'll be more about it there in show notes, and you can watch and listen to the episode. So, very good. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great one. We will see you on the next one.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
See you soon.
Thanks for joining us. To go deeper or get access to some of the valuable nuggets from today's show, go to bankmarketingshow.com. There you'll find episodes, links to resources, and much more. Be sure to subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And join us next time.